Hi, I'm Jim Stroud, and this is my podcast. If you are a recruiter and you are concerned about all of the new AI tools out there replacing you, well, your career days are numbered. At least that's according to my next guest, who brings a very compelling case. Stay tuned for that. The Recruiting Life is a newsletter that gives a quirky view on the world of work and aspires to educate, entertain, and inspire with articles, comics, podcasts, videos, and more. It is produced on a weekly basis by yours truly, Jim Stroud, and is supported by readers like you. Topics in this newsletter include the future of work, current labor trends, the impact of AI on the recruitment industry, and more. Subscribe now and receive it every Monday in your email by going to jimstroud.beehiiv.com. That URL is jimstroud.beehiiv.com. A link is in the podcast description. Don't wait. Subscribe now. Operators are standing by. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Stroud Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Special guest, tell us, who are you and what do you do?
Hello, Jim. It's such a pleasure to be here. My name is Stan Wasowicz, and I'm the VP of Growth and Partnerships at Scotty AI.
I saw a live stream that you did with Hung Lee, I think a few months back. Oh, not a few months now. Was it a few months? It was a while ago. About the future of work and how there was a technology that pretty much did everything in recruiting. And when I saw that, I had this feeling of a bit of dread because it seemed like technology was going to take all the recruiting jobs away in a sense. But I couldn't help but be intrigued, the same way, I guess, cars came along and took away horse and buggy. I'm wondering, am I in the same kind of moment with technology and recruiting? What do you think? Because when I saw your presentation, I thought we were there for sure.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the only thing that's sustaining the recruitment function right now is adoption and the bell curve, and the way that we've seen innovation horizons shorten, people adopting new technology more quickly. Just look at what happened with ChatGPT. Once these early adopters start using technology in the way that I described on the show, which technologically is already possible right now, they will gain such a competitive advantage in terms of meeting their hiring outcomes. And, with the channels that exist in the industry, your channel, shout out to Brain Food, obviously, shout out to other podcasts like Matt Alders, and the great event organizers across the world. The message will spread quickly. Implementation is super easy. So people will come and ask for this stuff, and it will make recruiters go the way of the travel agent. Or a bit earlier in time, you talked about horse and carriage versus cars. I'm basically saying that the advancement in technology today mimic what electricity was to lamplighters.
Wow. Now, for the benefit of those who did not see your live stream on Hung Lee's live stream, one of the technologies that you talked about is Scotty, which essentially made phone calls on behalf of companies. Tell us a bit more about that.
Scotty can essentially do anything that a recruiter can do in the full hiring cycle. So outbound sourcing by calling people on their phone is one thing. It can also text across any channel, SMS, WhatsApp, WeChat. You can do that stuff 24/7. In 140 languages, even dialects. You can make it sound like a young person. Some target audiences like to be recruited by a female voice. Some target audiences like a elderly, raspy male voice. You can A/B test that now as a recruitment marketeer and build that into the workflow. It's aware of every job in your system of records. It can integrate into every system of records, your ATS, your HCM, your ERP, your CMS. Like to highlight that one because it can also share any type of digital content tailored to a candidate's interactions with it and its preferences. Can track sentiment. It's funny when people say that technology doesn't have empathy, but the data shows that technology is much, much better than humans are at tracking sentiment. Example is a simple recruiter question like, hey, so tell me about what excited you to work for us. Technology is really good at saying, oh, man, I was looking for a job and I don't know, you came across my path. Yeah, clearly negative sentiment. That stuff can be transcribed, summarized, sent to the hiring manager. Or, oh yeah, I've been following your company for years. My mother shops at your stores. I actually bought a bunch of Christmas presents for my girlfriend. Oh, sentiment super positive. Why? X, Y, Z. So all of these things, and at a exponentially higher productivity rate. Humans can remember approximately 7 bits at the time, and they can talk to one other human. And then it becomes really hard to process what people are telling to them and to answer that. And Scotty, as an example, can speak to 500,000 people, 500,000 at the same time. And that's pure cloud consumption. That's as big as the companies right now, but you can scale that number to 5 million, 50 million, 500 million. The more you can cloud consume, the more you can do. So there's really no limit to the productivity ratio. So yeah, if you're, interviewing top of the funnel, doing screenings questions or outbound calling just to see if people are available and promote jobs. If you're doing in-depth interviews, trying to figure out if people match the skill set, well, I bet you don't have the level of degree in the specific field that the people that you're interviewing have. These large language models essentially have PhD degrees or master's degrees in every field. Remember how Bard and ChatGPT passed the bar? In theory, Scotty can do that too. Medicine, data science, sales, marketing, all of these fields, engineering that require highly specialized information to perform a job at the proper level now always require that hiring manager to take an hour or more out of their time to assess if the candidate can do that, because the recruiters can't really. They can just knock out and high level screen. Well, all these large language models can do that. They can't interview at level. What's the role still of that middleman or woman, except for bringing a ton of sloth, inconsistency, what do you call it? Unpredictability, bias, and just overall bad experience into the process. It's a role that's been there since the Middle Ages almost, and that, or at least since armies starting recruiting, that's when the recruiter really became a bigger thing, but it's also centuries now already.
Yep.
It's time not to disrupt the role. It's time to do away with this role. And don't get me wrong, man. I'm not saying this because I hate recruitment. I love recruitment. I'm just very well aware about the terrible experience and the terrible hiring outcomes recruiters generate for both candidates and employers. And we have the technology to make that drastically better for everyone involved, except those people in the middle. And man, I think it's time to make a change and usher in a completely new paradigm to how hiring works through this groundbreaking technology.
Sure. I think you're going to have a lot of people in management who love you and a lot of workers who may hate you for saying these things, and for the benefit of those who are on the hating side of the scale. I'm sure they're listening. They're thinking, technology, I don't know if it can truly replace the authenticity of a human being. I don't know if it can truly give the quality that I could give as a human. What would you say to those naysayers who say, essentially, technology could act like a proficient spammer in a sense, but not really give it that personalized attention that a human being could give in recruiting? What do you say to something like that?
Talk to Scotty.
What
else can I say? Um, this is quite frankly part of my strategy in this current role. We're building, rebuilding, training, teaching Scotty to be able to tell anyone in any role at their level anything that they would like to know about Scotty on the one hand. So we're turning Scotty into the salesperson. I literally budgeted 0 salespeople on a hefty growth target for next year. So I'm putting my money, my job where my mouth is. This company will grow purely through marketing, product, and partner-led growth because this product could and should sell itself, or I should be representing it the way I am. And the second thing that we'll do, except for being able to explain everything that you might want to know about it itself, it will offer you the opportunity to role play any role you're hiring for. In full discretion, Wednesday, October 25th, 2023, we're not there right now. We need to do some teaching, some coding. It usually takes us two weeks to a month to program Scotty to talk in the tone of voice you wanted to talk as an employer, to represent you the way you want to be represented, and to be able to interview and make predictions for positive outcomes at a level better than your current hiring team. But the data shows that for the customers that we're doing that, a few of these huge assumptions you just mentioned are obliterated. Like Scotty consistently scores much higher on candidate NPS than human recruiters do.
Really?
And it measures this at a far greater level because Scotty will ask every candidate ever interviewed how they experienced the interview and what it could do to improve. It's one of the features that it has. It can call an entire database of people that were rejected, hired, on how they experienced the process. That's how it gets better far more quickly also than humans, because again, it's built in. It has a built-in continuous feedback loop that humans don't have. Secondly, it's instant, man. Let me give you an example, right? I know I like to usually go on these long term, but can I give you a real life example and difference in experience?
Please.
Cool.
Please.
You're a hiring manager. You're hiring a senior software engineer with 6-7 years of experience with specific coding languages. Name any you'd like. You publish this job in your ATS. Now the sourcing team starts sourcing for it. At the same time, Scotty will look in your ATS. And through usually already some kind of AI matching that you have in it. As you know, I used to be at Smart Cruise. They have this cool tool called Smart Assistant that will already match the likely best people based on CV. Great. It calls all those people at the same time. Let's say it's 4,000 of them, right? It will first send them a WhatsApp, ask them if it can call. And then after a few minutes, it will call. Anyone that doesn't reply will get a nice voice message in WhatsApp. And a message, maybe some content, a deck from the CMS explaining something about the role, maybe a video about the team or the hiring manager video. The hiring manager would like to meet you, whatever. Super engaged already. The ones that it does meet, it will quickly explain why it's calling. It will say it's a bot. It will get that out of the way right away. But hey, don't worry, you can speak to me as if you would to a human. And the reason I'm calling is that, ServiceNow, whomever, are looking for an engineer like you based on your CV. Is this a good time to ask you a few questions? Let's say that out of the couple of thousand people that get that question, a couple of hundred say, yeah, sure, great. Scotty disqualifies, let's say 75, 80% of them, but then is left with 40 that seem quite all right. It goes on and say, okay, hey, you seem like an amazing fit. Can I ask you some more in-depth questions about your specific function? Now, this is already stuff that usually the recruiter couldn't do. Hey, could you explain how you would solve for this very specific coding problem? Normally, that goes beyond the comprehension level of the recruiter, but Scotty can already do that. Now, out of the 40 that give an answer, 4 smash it. While these people are speaking, because this is a 5 to 6 minute conversation already, Scotty is already calling the hiring manager, and it's 10:15.
Wow.
Right? And he's calling the hiring manager and saying, hey, Jim, based on the job you uploaded 15 minutes ago, I reached out to 1,000 people. I spoke a couple of hundred of them, and I have 4 that I think really fit the profile. I looked in your calendar because you can integrate Scotty with any calendar, Google, Outlook, and it seems like you're free for the next 30 minutes. Would you like to speak to them right away? I'm speaking to a few right now, and one I got on hold. If you go, yeah, sure, put them through, Then the candidate is put through directly to the hiring manager. Scotty can do that. It can put you through to any freaking buddy. So in an onboarding process, it can put you through to a buddy. Or if it's calling you to check in, if you're still keen on starting with a business and you give a bunch of indifferent answers, sounding like the sentiment is going bad, it can actually inform the hiring manager or the buddy, hey, I think it's a really good idea to reach out to this candidate, or we might lose them. They might have another offer, right? Anyway, going back to the hiring manager, all of this stuff goes well. Hiring manager doesn't have time. Now Scotty can schedule in later. All this stuff goes well. The hiring manager gets on the phone, offers a job. Imagine the candidate experience compared to the humans that are still figuring out who they're going to call, right? They're still making lists, or they're shooting out text messages or emails and stuff. It's a completely different experience.
Let's say that there's a company, let's say they're an enterprise level company, say they're Amazon, and they implement your Scotty technology.
Yeah.
And they are wowed by it, and they say, this is great. I can see it really enhancing the recruiting process. And let's say they don't want to lay off a significant portion of their recruiting staff. What else could those recruiters do if they're not doing the work that Scotty is doing?
The same thing that will be the end game for all humans in terms of what we will be doing as technology scales. Because don't get me wrong, this is a perfect storm that is happening across industry, right? I'm leading the charge here. This technology is leading the charge here in recruitment, but it's happening everywhere. Our jobs are being made obsolete by algorithms and by robots. The only thing that we have to get really, really good at is explaining to those bots what outcomes we want to achieve and what we don't want to see as a result of that, right? Because that's what bots don't really understand that well. In a Scotty AI, we have really smart engineers. 95% of the people working for Scotty are in product or engineering. And they will build guardrails to make sure that Scotty doesn't do this weird stuff like a chat GTP, like fabricates sources or fabricates stories. We don't want to fabricate salaries or fabricate career paths and stuff like that, right? That's nonsense. But still, you have to prompt and program and explain to Scotty really, really well what you want to achieve. That being said, mate, within now and the foreseeable time, 5 to 10 years, these bots will be able to add context so well that even someone who isn't good at explaining, let's say a toddler, that wants to achieve something, can still get their, food agent or their play agent or their, whatever digital or robotic agent is supporting them for that specific task, will be able to interpret it, what's best for that kid at that point in time, right? So all of our jobs are going to Lamplighters way. You have this thing about creating new jobs through technology. Yes, that was the case when technology made us more productive, right? But it didn't have human empathy. It didn't have human authenticity, you just mentioned. It didn't have creativity. It couldn't really problem solve, and it definitely couldn't make decisions. And now that we're getting to a point where technology is getting better at that, astronomically better at that than humans are, we're very quickly moving towards a world where we'll have to figure out what we need to do next. My prediction is that a lot of people will want to know what their purpose in life will be if work doesn't exist anymore. Political systems, income, the way that we divide goods, the way that we create them will have to be reimagined, right? There's this guy called Ray Kurzweil, founder of Singularity University, who in his book in 1999, The Singularity is Near, predicted a future where we have infinite energy from the sun. We have robots in space mining asteroids for infinite resources. We have drones bringing that shit back to Earth. That's going to 3D printing stations that create smaller materials from bigger materials. That goes to neighborhoods and printing stations, which make them even smaller, which goes to your house. And essentially anything you need in a predictive, prescriptive manner will exist and we've been there. A lot of stuff right now is still science fiction, right? But this is a guy that predicted this 20 years ago. And he also talks about this thing called the law of accelerating returns. I mean, if you're geeky or you like futurism, man, look him up. Raymond Kurzweil, law of accelerating returns, singularity is near. Eat your heart out. This is a hobby of mine. I do recruitment as a living and I fell into it, but this is stuff that I actually live and breathe. I think that technology like Scotty, hopefully, the extrapolation of that is giving people purpose, is saying, hey, Jim, not hey, Jim, what kind of job would you want to do, but really understanding, hey, Jim, what really gets you going? What really makes your day? Oh, helping other people, or you like to experience adventures, or you like and we'll figure it out. That's, by the way, the other thing that Scotty does already a gazillion times better than any human. It can call candidates and ask them what they want. and then search for them. So it's a huge value add to staffing firms, which are already using it, right? We have case studies with huge staffing firms that do the initial candidate intake through Scotty. Another thing that Scotty can do is hiring manager intakes. Recruiters are notoriously bad at understanding what hiring managers want exactly in their candidate for their team. Scotty consistently scores higher on that type of exercise. So if you can do this for jobs, if you can do this for work, my prediction is that bots will ask us what gets us excited in life. It will give us suggestions to live a fruitful, fulfilling life. And man, I hope there will be less money driven and career driven, and not have these swords of Damocles hanging above our necks. If we lose our job, we lose our benefits, our healthcare.
Yeah.
So we're stressed and we're constantly running after that never achievable objective of wealth and peace of mind. Man, hopefully we'll get it. We'll all get a little bit more spiritual. We'll all have a little bit more fun. And Wreckfest won't be a recruitment or career event, but it'll be more like a modern day Woodstock. It kind of is already, right? We're on the grass, drinking beers, having fun. So we already kind of created that, but now just without the purpose, without running behind the cash for all that stuff to feed ourselves. I welcome. I'm not at all worried about that time. I'm worried about the in between, and the thing that concerns me is the wrong type of powers using the technology for wrong. Those things are scary. But anyway, we're getting super esoteric.
Well, I can appreciate your I appreciate your passion and that utopian philosophy there. I hope if it does come to that, I hope it does
we're pretty cool
come to that. Yeah, it'll be a nice kumbaya moment for sure. I'm wondering, I'm trying to think of both sides of the equation here, because I know some people are excited, some people are very nervous. I think for those who are nervous, they may think about this and say, okay, this is very concerning, this technology taking over. But I've heard similar things before with chatbots came along, and they thought that chatbots would take away all the recruiter jobs, but chatbots are everywhere and recruiters are still working. Could that possibly be a sign that, as amazing as this type of technology is, I shouldn't be too afraid for my role as a recruiter? Or is this something that's, I shouldn't be afraid today, but maybe more concerned 5 or 10 years later?
No, I think it'll be sooner that we'll see drastic cuts in recruitment teams. I'm speaking companies right now at the enterprise level, employing hundreds and if not thousands of recruiters. And what we're talking about, the business case, are reducing the recruitment workforce by 90%. Keeping the 10 super specialized ones and the ones that understand technology, the ones that can connect and design whole hiring journeys. That's a really cool role, actually. In my previous job, I partnered with a lot of companies that do that stuff incredibly well. And I'm super eager to do it again with Scotty. So offer the best type of experience to candidates, the best type of experience to employers by creating human interaction where it's super relevant and super meaningful, and removing that from the process through technology as much as you can, where it's just slowing stuff down or performing far worse. And the main difference between chatbots, which I was always also quite skeptical about, is that these are kind of if this then that machines, very limited, couldn't really understand context, couldn't assume stuff, couldn't really sense people's feeling about something. Never has a chatbot replied, "Oh, it sounds like you're not very excited, Jim." And these voice bots, they listen better, they understand the data better, and they can. That's the main thing. This Josh Bersin talks about these 4 generations of technology. Sorry to do a quick sidestep to answer your question again.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
He talks about, first you had on-prem, people just built software on-prem for themselves. That the next generation was, okay, we could put it on-prem in a CD, but that was still not very scalable because an update meant you need to change stuff on-prem. But then moved into the cloud. Cool, we could do quicker updates. We could start with subscription models, but even more importantly, we could plug in point solutions from outside in the cloud. So very quickly, it was you were able to add more to your tech stack. And then the latest generation was you plug in the AI. You have most of these, all of the ATS right now are actually cloud-based solutions with AI built into them or plugged into them. Scotty Technology is part of the latest generation, what your version describes as companies that are built on top of AI. So it's built on open source code, open source large language model to be precise, to build a proprietary solution completely focused on that hiring experience, right? And because of that, because it's getting so much data so quickly about hiring, if it moves fast enough, it'll get to a level where it's almost impossible to catch up with it at a meaningful ROI. It's already dirt cheap. Scotty charges by successful conversation. and by performance. So what I mean by and by time. So what I mean by that, if Scotty's calling you and you hang up on Scotty, the customer isn't paying. Whereas if a sourcer is calling someone and the candidate hangs up, which happens most of the time, you are paying for that sourcer, right? So even if this is the hard truth, right? Even if we do need to wait 3 or 4 or 5 years for Scotty to get as good as the very, very, very best recruiter in the world. If Scotty is, which it is, 50 times cheaper per conversation than that recruiter, and that price can drop at volume, because if we can cover our cost through large expansion, then the goal is to drop them, just to grab as much market share as quickly as you can, which is important in this world of large language models, because they aren't incredibly hard to build. I mean, Scotty is 2 years old or 3 years old. Look how far it is, right? So you need to very quickly expand. So now I don't think from a business point of view that shareholders would even allow companies to have human recruiters a few years from now, because it's just a very unproductive, ineffective, detrimental, super costly business function. Makes no sense to be burning money that way. But to give an example, one of the things that we're planning to do is get the world's best recruiters, the ones that win all the awards, and have them speak to Scotty, and Scotty interview them about what makes them special. Is there a tone of voice? Is how they structure an interview? I'm speaking to some of the best interview intelligence company already. So that category of Bright Hire, Hire Guide, Honet, Meta, View, those companies, you can just buy a license, have Scotty look how they structure interviews, get some data from the very best recruiters in the world, and now Scotty is as good as very best recruiter, because it learns instantly, right? It learns so much quicker. It doesn't have ramp time, so if you're a graduate or you're middle school right now, there's no way that any company will accept training someone for years to get at a tenth of the level that Scotty is right now when you plug it in. Makes no sense, Jim. See where I'm getting with this? Like from every business, for every logical business point of view, I think there will be recruiters, right, in 20, 30 years from now. And they will be there for the same reason that there are lamplighters in Paris and in London. A novelty, a symbol, a laugh, a joke, some fun. Oh, look, that's how people used to turn on light, create light.
Yeah, it used to be a time when people would take a match and light every lamp in Paris, but then electricity came and that's no longer a thing.
And it was gone. And like large language models, generative AI, the way it learns, the way it develops, is to recruiters what electricity was to those guys.
That is amazing. And if recruiters listening aren't worried enough, I know that your product is the best in class for what it does, but you do have competitors. So it's not like everyone should be concerned about just your product. There are also competitors out there.
Let me shout them out. Not to be just preaching for my own parochial. There are early movers, like Curious Thing, Qualified, Talking Job, Recce, Okta. I mean, I look at these guys as my peers. I found them in my previous job. I was super inspired. Scotty at that point was superior. I think at this point still is. But hey, I absolutely appreciate those folks for creating this category, because let me emphasize this, we're not doing this because we hate recruitment. We love recruitment. I've been in recruitment now for almost half of my life, man. I fell into it. I never got out. I got all these different roles: corporate, startup, tech, services. I freaking love it. All I've been trying to do my whole career is make employers achieve the best possible hiring outcomes, the highest level of hiring success, by getting them in front of the best possible talent in the most efficient way and offering the talent the best possible experience of getting there. And I'm still doing that for the love of this industry. But for the love of this industry, recruiters got to go.
Wow. If someone wanted to get in contact with you and ask you more questions, or to get a demo of this amazing technology so they can see it for themselves, or rather hear it for themselves, how can they connect with you and learn more about Scotty?
Hit me up on LinkedIn. I love expanding my network. There's a demo request link on the Scotty Technologies.com website. They can go there. And man, like I said, if everything happens like our development team, putting pressure on them now, has promised us to do, that by the end of the year, they won't be speaking to me, they will be speaking to Scotty. That's the best thing, our call to action for the next year is talk to Scotty, experience it for yourself, and watch how this industry will elevate to a new paradigm, a better one, for good.
Well, Stan, you have alarmed lots of people, I'm sure, and I'm sure some of them will take the Scotty challenge and hear it for themselves. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on the Jim Stroud podcast.
Thank you very much, Jim. A massive, massive pleasure to be here.
Well, my time is up. I thank you for yours. I'll see you again real soon right here with a brand new episode of the Jim Stroud Podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached by email at jimstroud@jimstroud.com. And one last favor, if I may ask, please rate this podcast. 5 stars is preferred, but please comment with your honest opinion. I really appreciate that. All right? Okay, until next time, bye-bye.